It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for Season 10 of The Walking Dead. This is going to be my promo or trailer breakdown for the upcoming episode of The Walking Dead, Season 10, Episode 7, which is called Open Your Eyes. So let's jump right into it. So the promo starts with this shot of Siddiq. He walks into the infirmary and he sees dozens and dozens of more people who have gotten sick. So that's very interesting. So it seems like this sickness is spreading and they can't necessarily contain it as they originally thought they could. I'm getting a lot of prison sickness vibes from this story arc coming up, so that's very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting to see whether they can actually do anything about this or whether this is going to spread and cause more and more casualties. There are some signs in this trailer that hint that we might actually get some casualties. That's why I said more and more. And then as Siddiq is looking around, his PTSD kicks in and he sees Alpha standing there outside the infirmary. Now what's very interesting is that Alpha is wearing the same exact green dress that she was wearing at the fair before she kidnapped and killed the victims of the Pikes massacre. And then we have this shot of Siddiq somewhere in Alexandria, and then this shot. So that's what I was talking about. So it's someone's body, they're burying someone, and I am willing to bet that this is a casualty from the sickness. Now, there's a possibility it could be Rosita. I hope not, but there are some signs that it could be Rosita. We'll get into those, and I'm also doing a separate video just for that because part of what I will talk about in terms of whether Rosita is going to make it or not in this episode relies on some comic stuff. Not necessarily Rosita's comic arc, but in general things that happened in the comics that match up with what's happening with Rosita right now, or the storyline they may be giving Rosita. But someone's dead body is here and it's most likely connected to the sickness spreading, and this person is most likely one of the casualties of the sickness spreading. And then we have this shot which is pretty much from the same scene. So we have the body here, we have Siddiq here and some other people walking around. This could be Dante. And then we have this shot, so we have Daryl and Carol bringing the Whisper that they captured back. They have a prisoner now and they're most likely going to be interrogating that prisoner, that Whisper prisoner, as we do see later on in this trailer. But it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with this Whisper here. I don't think this Whisper is going to tell them a lot of information based on, again, what we have in this trailer, what the Whisper says. I'll get to that, but it's going to be interesting to see whether they actually let this guy go. I don't think they will, but then the alternative is for them to kill him. In the voiceover, the Whisper says, "You ignore the truth when it's staring you in the face." And then we have this shot of Daryl, again, connected to the same scene. He's most likely either torturing or interrogating the Whisper. And then this shot, so he takes the Whisper's hand and puts his knife right next to the fingers. So he's going to chop off his fingers if he doesn't talk. And then we have this shot of the Whisper looking at Daryl most likely as he is about to chop off his fingers. The Whisper says, "I would never betray Alpha. She loves us all." So that goes back to what I said. I don't think this Whisper is going to tell them a lot of information about the Whispers. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this Whisper, given that this Whisper is most likely not going to talk. And then we have this pretty epic shot of Carol and Lydia on horseback. We'll see another shot of that, but only 2 episodes left this year, episode 7 and 8. So we're getting very close to the mid-season here. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how things shape up. And then we have this shot, which I just mentioned, which is just a closer look at the previous shot. So we have Carol and Lydia on horseback. Not exactly sure where Carol is taking Lydia, but something tells me that Carol is using Lydia to get at Alpha, and that could create tension between Carol and Daryl. We'll talk more about that when we do our predictions of the episode, but it's very interesting that Carol is actually taking Lydia somewhere. That's extremely interesting. In the voiceover, Carol says, "You need to choose which side you're on." I think she's talking to the Whisper at this point, the prisoner Whisper, but she could be talking to Lydia, not sure. Then we have another shot of them, and then this shot, which is extremely interesting. So we have the Whisperer's border on the bridge, and Gamma here, and Aaron walking up to Gamma. So Gamma and Aaron have some sort of a meeting. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this, whether Gamma is going to be acting as a double agent for the group, whether she doesn't want to be a part of the Whisperers anymore and she's going to help the group, or whether Alpha sets something up so that Gamma gains Eren's trust and basically gets an advantage over the survivors that way. Based on the last conversation Alpha and Gamma had, that seems like what's probably happening, but we could be wrong about that. So Eren walks up and Gamma hands him this note. I don't know what's in the note, but it's going to be interesting to see, again, whether this is Gamma really wanting to help the survivors, or whether Alpha set something up to make Eren trust them so that Gamma could pretty much work for Alpha on the inside. Then we have this shot of Siddiq again, and then he gets another PTSD episode, and then we get a transition of what seems to be Whisperers. That's very interesting. And then we have this shot of Siddiq in some sort of swimming pool or a lake or something like that. It could be the big lake that they have at the Alexandria safe zone, and he could be obviously doing this so that he gets out of his episode and everything. And then this close-up shot of Siddiq with his eyes open underneath the water, and then it switches to this shot. Now I am leaning towards this being a flashback. I think this episode might be the episode where we actually get the reveal about what went down at the barn during the Pikes massacre. And then we have this shot of Carol on horseback. Lydia's not with her. That's interesting. And then we have this shot of Carol and Daryl talking. Carol says, "This is the only way and you know it." This could relate to how they're going to deal with the Whisperer prisoner. And at this point, maybe the prisoner hasn't given up any information, and Carol basically tells Daryl, "You know what we have to do, we have to kill him." And then we have this shot of Daryl taking out his knife and looking at the Whisperer prisoner. Now, the way he's looking at him, his facial expressions, leads me to think that at this point, Daryl is going to kill the prisoner. Then we have this shot of Gamma talking to Alpha, and then this shot. Now, Gamma looks kind of terrified here, so that's interesting. She's looking at something, not sure what. Then we have this shot of Carol. In the background, we do have the Whisperer prisoner, and obviously we have the jail cell. Carol doesn't look so good. Not exactly sure what's going on with her. It seems like she's getting sick or something. There's things right here on her face and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see whether this is connected to the sickness spreading or whether this is completely different. But she's not really looking too good. So that got me a little bit concerned. And then we have this shot of another well-known character being sick, Rosita. Siddiq is by her side. Now, like I said earlier, there's a chance that Rosita might die in this episode. There are some clues for that, and I'll talk about that on a separate video, but just looking at this alone gets me a little concerned, especially looking at the initial shot in the trailer as well with the body. Then we have this shot of this Whisper prisoner, and then we have this shot of Eren, and then Gamma, and this is the border. Now, it seems like Eren's hands are tied, but I could be wrong about that, but that's interesting. And then we have this shot of Siddiq showing up, and there's an empty bed. So that's another clue or hint that Rosita might actually be dead. Then we have this shot of Gamma. She's just sitting by herself. Leaning more towards Gamma having witnessed something horrific, or she was exposed by Alpha or something like that. And then we have this shot of Siddiq. Now this one, I am 100% sure it's a flashback because you do see the inside of the barn in the background. So unless this is like a short flashback, I am sure at this point that we are going to see an extended cut of what happened in the barn during the Whisperer massacre scene. So that's going to be extremely interesting. And then this shot, which is connected, of blood pouring out. Someone most likely got decapitated at this point. So that's pretty much everything that they have in the trailer. There's a lot of different things that we can get from the trailer, which is interesting. They usually don't do this. They usually don't give us a trailer where we can pick it apart. But in this case, it seems like they did give us something that we could actually pick apart and make assumptions and predictions based off of. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in this video. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video. If you like what you see, press like, subscribe for more content, and press the bell button to receive notifications for daily uploads.